And the first thing that we're going to do is that we're actually going to get a font, right? And as always, we're just going to get a Google font. So here we're just going to go again back to Google, and we're going to say a Google fonts over here, Google fonts. And once we have a link, we just open up the link, and I'm just going to be using a indie flower, right? So here we're just going to use the search, right? And we're going to say that this is going to be indie over here flower, right? This is the one that we'll be using. So I just click over here that I want to add, and over here we're just going to check it out what we have. And if we want over here, you can see that we can customize, right? But you can see that it's right away included in this case, right? In some cases we can add some more stuff. So over here it says how we can actually embed it in our document. So over here we're just gonna have a copy, right? And we're gonna go back to our main HTML over here to index HTML, right? And we need to add it somewhere in the head, right? So we'll find our head, and we're going to create a space, and we're going to paste it over here, and we're just going to leave the comment that this is going to be a Google fonts over here like this. And then right away, let's actually create a new link, right? We're going to create, this is going to be our main CSS. So I'm going to say main CSS. And the thing is that we need to add this underneath over here because we will be using our Google fonts in our main CSS. So the order is important right now, right? So here we're just going to say that this is going to be link, relationship, style sheet, and here we're going to say that the href would be, of course, the main CSS, right? So we click over here. This is going to be our CSS, main CSS. Just close it out. And now we have connected the main CSS. And over here, this is going to be our fonts, right? So we just copy this. Now we can close this one out, and we're just going to save this index HTML, not over here, but over here. We're going to save it, and if we go back to main CSS, the first thing that we can add is actually I'm going to say that this is going to be a general rules, right? And I'm going to write that this is going to be for the body, right? Right away, we're going to add a font, right? We're going to say that this is going to be a font, right? So you can see what happened right away. It's the Hindi font. And here I'm going to right away say, because we're going to be using a responsive. So I'm going to say font size right away 100%, because we're going to be again using the EM values, right? And after that, we can actually start styling everything. Now what I want to do over here again for the body, I'm going to add some interesting stuff. So here I'm going to add that brick wall. So I'm going to say that this is going to be a background, and the background is going to be URL, right? URL over here, and where's the address, right? So we go to images, and we're going to find this a background, right? This is going to be our background. This is what I want for my whole image, right? And over here, we're going to say that that we would want that background to be fixed, or we can write background attachment fixed, right? So over here, if we write a background attachment, right, this is creates actually the scrolling effect when you're actually scrolling, and over here this background image is actually moving slower than the front one. So when we're going to be scrolling, it's going to have that parallax effect, right? So that's why we're adding fixed. Or we can add just that fixed over here. It would be the same thing. Just over here I'm saying more specifically, or if I would just write over here this fix, it would do the same thing. So now we're so far done for the body, right? But over here what we want to create this image over here with the sushi as a background. And before we actually do that, we would need to go back over here and add one more thing, right? You can see over here this header, and I'm going to create another div, right? I'm going to say that this is going to be a div that's going to have a name of a wrapper, right? So I'm going to say that this is going to be ID, and this is going to be a wrapper, right? And you'll see why I'm doing this. So let's say over here we're just going to create a, let's say, cut, right? And we need to go all the way down to the section and just paste it over here, right? So again, we can save this one, and we go to main CSS, and the first thing that we want is actually create over here our header, right? This is going to be our whole section, right? Header, and I want to say that I want my header to be 100%, right? So I would want a height 100% over here like this. And then after that, I'm going to start styling the wrapper. And just to show you what we're doing, right? So we're starting over here. We're starting with the ID header, and then we're going to be styling the wrapper, right? So we go back to main CSS, and now we're going to be styling a wrapper, right? So we're going to say wrapper over here like this. And then we're going to say that wrapper also should have a height of 100%. And then after that, it's going to have a background as well, and background URL. And we're going to say that that background URL is going to be, again, we're going to find it where it is. Where is our sushi? And this is going to be a section background, right? And over here, you can see how we actually added right away. And if we go back over here, and we would say a background position, ground position over here. And we would say that background position actually is going to be a center. And then we're going to say that we actually don't want it to repeat. So let's say over here that this is going to be background repeat, and we'll say no repeat. And after that, what we're going to do is we're going to say that our image should be covering everything, right? So we're going to say a background over here, and we're going to say that this is going to be a size, and this is going to be a cover size, right? So this way it actually fits really nicely over here. You can see that it fits right exactly where we want it to, right? And after that, what we want right away is we're going to add a border bottom over here, bottom, and we're going to say that this is going to be 1 EM solid red, right? So this is going to be our border. But just to be safe, guys, it's always good. You can see that this is the parent element of the wrapper, right? However, everything is within the body and with the HTML. So what we always want to do, right? So when we want to set some kind of heights, what we always want to do is we want a body, and then we want a HTML. Both of them have the height of 100%, right? So that way it actually works better. You can see right away that now, as I added this 100%, this is going to be basically the moment we open up our page is going to be fitting exactly our whole page, right? So if I didn't add this 100%, you can see what would be, how it would look like, right? This would be only this size, right? However, if we add all these parent elements to 100%, right? This is the look that we want, right? This is this complete look where we basically, the moment we open up our page, I mean, right now the logo is not in the middle where we want it to, but it is sitting how we want it to, right? This whole page, right? And therefore, you need to add these. I mean, it's a little bit annoying, right? You have for wrapper 100%, you have for header 100%, you have a body and HTML, but you need to do this in order for this to work, right? And after that, what we want to do is actually we want this content, right? We want to actually align it somehow vertically, this one, right? I know we still haven't worked with an image, and maybe that's what we should do actually first, so it's not as annoying the way it looks kind of big, and only then we should maybe go for a content. But what I'm going to say over here, then we're going to say header. This is going to be our ID, of course, and over here for the image, then we want a little bit smaller size. Over here, we would say that we would want a width. Over here, we would want a width to be like 23 EM, so you can see that it's smaller. But the problem over here, you can see that even if we added a text center, it wouldn't be working. And the reason why it wouldn't be working is because we have an image responsive. An image responsive, as you know, that it's actually a display block, right? This is why it's sitting right now over here. Now, we didn't add the class text center because we'll be doing it a little bit differently, not with the Bootstrap text center, but it wouldn't work. So the first thing what we would need to do is over here, we were going to say display, and this is going to say display in line, right? It didn't move to the center, but it will, and I'll show you why we actually need to do that. And what we're going to do right now, we're just going to save this. If you remember these ones, right? When we created these over here, this content and content box, right? So now we're going to style those. So we go back to our main CSS, but I'm just going to do it on top of the header. And what I'm going to say that I would want a content over here, content to be styled, right? And I'm going to say that I would want a content to have a height, again, of 100%, and then a width of 100%. right? And then I would want a display of table, right? So I'm going to say display table over here like this. And then I'm going to say that I would want a content box to be a table cell. So I go over here and I would say the content box, right? This is going to be our second ID. And I would want to say that I would want a display over here, a table cell, right? And once I right now say that what would be a vertical line, and I say middle, right? You can see that it's going to go in the middle. Now remember one thing, guys, though. There is a thing with over here with this menu bar, right? Over here. So therefore, it's not going to be exactly, if we wouldn't have this menu bar, no problem. But in this case, we're just going to stick with this one, right? Where it's not, I mean, it's a little bit off, but we can live with that, right? There's going to be another videos we're going to make a completely in the center. Not in this video, I'm just going to keep it the way it is. And over here, you can see that we just added text align and we just put it center. And again, we could have used a Bootstrap, right? Bootstrap property for that when we had a class, actually, right? A text center, but we're just going to be using this text align center. But one thing which you always need to remember over here with this image, right? That we need that display in line, right? Otherwise, you can see that if I don't have this display in line, you can see that my text is sitting in the center, right? My link is sitting in center. But over here, even if I have this text align center, or again, if it would be Bootstrap class text center, right, it still wouldn't work because this is displayed as a block, right? So over here we have display in line, and now it actually works perfectly. And what we want to do right now is we actually want to style a header, right? The header paragraph, right? The paragraph over here, this small one. So we're just going to create again some more space over here, and what we're going to say that we would want a header over here and header paragraph. Right, then over here, we're going to say that this is going to be a font size. Over here, 3 EMs. Over here, like this. Then we're going to say that this is going to have a font weight. Over here, and we're going to say that this is going to be, I'm just going to use a bolder, right? So it's a little bit bolder. And then I'm going to say that I would want a little bit margin top and bottom. So I'm going to say margin. And I'm going to say this is going to be 1 EM. And over here, I'm going to say 0, right? So as we're obviously writing like this, this is going to be the top and the bottom, and this is going to be the side one. And I don't care about the sides, I just care about over here, about this little margin. Now, after that, I want to actually do something when I'm hovering over it, right? So here, I'm going to write header, right? I'm going to say header, and I'm going to say header P paragraph. But as I'm hovering over it, let's say that I would want to change the color. Right, so I'm going to say that this is going to have a color, and I'm going to say that this is going to have a color white, right? So now as I'm hovering, right, you can see that it's going to be turning white. I mean, it's really no use for that, but I just like it the way it looks. So over here, then we're going to create a header, and then we're going to say that we want to style a link, right? But since this is actually sitting over here, right? So let's check it out what we have in the index, right? Where we actually placed over here, right? So we have over here this link, right? And what I want to do is I want to select only that one. So I'm going to say that I would want a header and I would want a link, but I don't want all the links, right? Because I don't want actually these ones over here. So I'm going to say that I would want the one that's actually sitting in a content, let's say ID, right? So here I'm going to write a content over here like this, and then a link, right? And now you can see that I'm actually working with this link. And here I'm going to say that I would want a background color. I would want a white over here like this. Then I'm going to say that I would want a font size to be like 4 EM, right? Over here, 4 EM. And let's again create a little bit more space so we have something to work with. And over here, we're just going to write that this is going to be 4 EM. Then we're going to say that we want some little bit of padding, let's say top and bottom, and actually on the sides too, because we want to make this white a little bit extended to the sides. So over here, if I write 0.15 EMs, right? And then I would, let's say, write something like 0.5 EM, right? You can see how actually I extended to the sides, right? So 0.15 would be like this, and 0.5 would be like that. Now, after that, what we want to do is actually add a color. I'm going to say that color is going to be blue. And after that, we're going to say the text decoration is going to be none, right? And then we're going to say that opacity is going to be right away. We're going to create like something like 0.6. So you can see that it's a little bit more transparent. And then we're going to say that this is going to have a border, right? And the border is going to be like 0.15 EM solid black, right? So this is going to be our border. And now let's add a hovering. So it's going to be header, content, and over here a and hover, right? And here we're going to say that we want a background color red, background color red over here. And after that, we're going to add a let's say after background color, we would want a opacity to be 1, right? So we're going to say opacity 1, right? So what happens is you can see this is transparent, but now as I'm hovering over, you can see that it's turning dark red because the opacity is 1. And now we're pretty much done with these 3. So we would need to jump over here to this nav bar, right? And over here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a comment. This is going to be a nav bar. And let's just check it out whether we added, well, we didn't. We actually left it with general rules. So over here, we're just going to leave this body one, right? But over here, we're going to create that this is going to be for the header, right? So just to comment it out, it actually really helps if you're actually going back, right, and checking what is what. You right away, these comments actually help you to know where your rules are located. So the first thing that I'm going to say is I want a nav bar, right? And I would want a background color to be transparent. Over here, nav bar, and it's going to be transparent, right? So now you can see what happened. Then right away, my Bootstrap navbar actually turned transparent. Now after that, I want, actually it has like a little border over here. So I'm going to say border, right? And I'm going to say that all my borders should be 0, right? So you can see that it pulled a little bit up because we used that border property. And after that, we're going to add some padding all around. So I'm going to say 2 EMs, right? Just so it's a little bit bigger. The next thing what I want to do is actually style over here this little button, right? So over here, if I write a navbar, over here button, and then I would want to say a background color, and I would want it red, right? So now you can see that we got this one red over here like this, and you can see it disappear because I actually clicked on it, but we're going to actually fix that. We're going to say that navbar button actually on a hover. So we're going to say navbar button over here like this button, and here we're going to say that while we're hovering also should be the same. We're going to say that this is going to have a background color, and we're going to say red. So now actually as we're actually hovering, it's also going to be red. Now one thing, right, you can see as I'm hovering, it's actually not, it's turning gray. And the reason for that, what we need to do over here, we go back over here and we write important over here like this. So now actually as I'm going to be hovering, you can see that it's actually going to be red, right? And just to prove it to you over here, if I write blue, let's say, right? So as I'm going to be hovering, it's going to be blue. So if we want to deal with a Bootstrap preset, some kind of styles, right? Which in this case is the navbar. Navbar has already preset styles. If we want to change something, we need to use, in some cases over here, this important sign, and then we actually only are able to do it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So let's over here just say, as we're hovering, we're just going to turn it black or something, right? So now we have a black as we're hovering, right? And after that, let's just check it out, right? So as we're hovering, now we have a black. Now after that, what we want is actually a navbar brand. This is the sushi bar, right? So over here, we'll just write this class, navbar, and this is going to be a brand. And we're going to say that navbar brand should have a color. And we're going to say black, right? And again, nothing is happening because they're preset values. So if we write over here important again, but just remember that you cannot write over here like I did with the big letters, right? But right away as I write important, you can see that it changed, right? So this is how we can work actually with a Bootstrap preset values. And then after that, we're going to say that font size over here is going to be 6 EMs, right? something like this. So now you can see how big they are. And after that, we're actually gonna style a anchor links over here, right? So what I want to do is I want to say navbar over here, and I want a anchor tags, right? The problem is that this is also an anchor tag, and I already styled this one, right? So what we do is we use over here the pseudo class not, and we just write that we don't want to include a navbar brand. So we write navbar, we write brand, right? So now we know we're not including that. And here you can see that right away it says we're going to be styling these links. And we're going to say that we want a color. We want a color red. And again, nothing happened because there's some preset values, right? So if we write important, which we would if I wouldn't be messing with my keyboard wrong, important over here, you can see that right away they turn red. Then we're going to say that we want a font size to be like 3 EMs, right? Then after that, we're going to say that we want a font weight to be bolder, right? Font weight. And we're going to say that we want a bolder font weight. And the last thing that we want, and as we're hovering, I want them to actually turn black, right? So over here, we just go and we say that we want a navbar hover over here like this, and actually hover A. So we want a navbar A, and here it's going to be hover. We want a color black, right? So we write color, and we find where is the black color. And let's check it out. Do we need to add important? Yes, we do. So we write over here that we want a important over here. Once we're done with navbar link hovering, we're actually ready to go and add more HTML or 2 more sections, right? So let's go to index.html and let's add more sections.